Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. Today, Fall Edition 2025. It is Thirsty Thinking Thursday. It's raining out right now. Thursday, lately, I am doing quasi-pseudo taking notes, trying to figure out how to do this timely. Yeah, it's hasn't quite been perfected yet. However, and right now I have it balancing beyond my hand's reach. So hopefully nothing causes it to go and fall over. So today, Thirsty Thinking Thursday, we are covering the words of praise in Hebrew. And I got the hiccups again, just like yesterday. So anyways, we're doing the Hebrew words for praise. And in my search, I found out that there's more than 7. There's more than 7. So I may throw some of those in there towards the end. Some of these ones that, I'm just finding out about. And it's like, oh, I thought there was only 7. More than 7. All right. So I just noticed a text come in from my boss. So I'm like, okay, I got to check that out. Okay. So today, the last 2 weeks, we've done Tada and Yoda. So Tada and Yoda, both extended hands, but have a different spaces for them. So one is to thank God for the things he's done. The other is to thank God for what he's going to do. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but there's more to it than that. So absolutely go back and watch the rest of the videos that I've done in this series, Thirsty Thinking Thursday. Okay, so today we're doing Shabach. Shabach is to shout praise or command, expressing confidence and triumph. What is the best example of this in today when we're shouting from triumph and expressing confidence? It's when we've gone to a sports game. When we've gone to a sports game, see, now I'm leaning forward. So when we've gone to a sports game and our team has scored, we get all pumped up, right? We do Yada. We do Yada. And we shout, yeah, wow, our team's awesome. They're great. Ah! And then we talk about it for days, and we get that same enthusiasm, maybe not as exuberant, which is a little bit more on the halal side when you gather it all together. But on the Shabbat side, you talk about it with enthusiasm. You're a little bit louder than you normally are. The kids in the cafeteria, they get like, I'm always have to remind them, indoor voices, because they're like shouting. They're so excited about talking to their friend and saying something to their friend that they start shouting it out. And so that's what that is expressed like. There's expressions of worship. Oh, wait. Did I just turn the page? Oh, no. Okay, so there's expressions of worship in the Psalms. There's speaking, there's shouting, there's singing, there's bowing, there's standing, there's dancing, there's playing instruments, there's clapping and lifting up our hands. So when we're covering all these words, this is the speaking part. This is one of the speaking parts, because there's multiple, but speaking is most clarified in Shabach. So it's to shout or exclaim or address in a loud tone. It's often in context with a joyful praise, triumph, a story, or now that comes in later, a strong commendation. When you recommend somebody to do something, you're talking about their praises of their work. Their handiwork is amazing. You need to hire this guy to do the job because he really does the job really great. And notice my tone started getting louder about how awesome this individual is in doing this particular job, this particular work, his craftsmanship, his creativity, his, all of that. And so that's where that strong recommendation, that strong commendation. Sometimes you get this commendation award in the military, a unit commendation award. It's this thing that the unit has done. You may not have done it, but the unit has done it, and therefore you get this unit commendation because this unit has gone before you and done these mighty things. And then in that space, in the Army, in that space, I don't know about the other services, but my husband retired from the Army. So with that, there's these unit commendations, and they're to say that unit has done this magnificent deed. So that's where that commendation word comes in. You're talking about the Lord's great and mighty works, those great and mighty things that he has done. And in that space of saying how great and mighty he is, if he's done it before, he'll do it again. If he's done it for them, he'll do it for me. It's this passing down from generation to generation. These things that the Lord has done. And so, it's passing down just like that unit commendation from one generation to the next, of reminding them. This is a reminder of what great things the Lord has done. And so there is Shabach in that. There's a joyous testimony, that testimony of what great things God has done for you, what great things God has done for us, what great things God has done. And so there's this public declaration. It's a public declaration. That means it's not something, well, you can still do it in your own home, in your own prayer closet, in your own prayer room, whatever you have, that God's not going to say, oh, shame on you, there's nobody there to witness that. No, you can still do that because you have the witnesses of all of heaven. You have the witnesses of heaven. But a public declaration means that it's done publicly. So when you do a public declaration of a testimony, you're sharing your testimony with somebody else. You're sharing the great things that the Lord has done in your life, and how that has changed you, how that has transformed you, how that has moved you from one place to another. Oh yeah, you're not perfect yet. People need to realize you're not perfect yet. That won't be until you're with Christ. So in the meantime, there's this transformational sanctification journey that takes place. And that happens because of the testimony that we have that declares what he has done, because we can't do it ourselves. It is not by works. It is not by works. And in order for others to understand this, it takes our testimony. And let's see where we're at here on my chicken scratch. Depending on the context, it could also stand for to commend. That's what I was talking about, that unit commendation. That is like the main word for it, is declaring those wonderful things. But it could be to soothe, to still, or to boast, depending on the context of the words. So, your sentence you have certain words that, if there's a word that is used, depending on the sentence that it's used, will depend on what that word means. And that happens in the English just as much as it happens in other languages. So depending on the context, depends what that specific word means. And so, to be still, I'm not sure if me getting the attention of the 4th grade in a loud voice counts. When I'm yelling at the kids to quiet down, time to settle, and I'm saying it loud because they all need to be able to hear me. I'll tell them, take a deep breath, blow out. It's time to go inside, time to settle down, it's time to calm down. I'm not sure if that is that space for be still, but that's the only thing that I can think of in my head of to be still, or to soothe and boast. Boast is like commendation. You're boasting about this individual. You're saying, this person has done great work. So depending on the context will depend on what exactly that word is referring to. There are multiple scriptures in the Psalms. There's scriptures in Chronicles or scriptures in Ecclesiastes that has Shabach. Most of them is in the Psalms, and one of those is Psalms 47:1. Shout to God with the voice of triumph in the King James Version, and the voice of joy in the NIV version. Now, I tend to like the King James Version better. So when I think of the word triumph in a joyful praise of triumph, a joyful praise of triumph. So in that triumph, when we think about expressing confidence and triumph, a triumph comes up multiple times, but in this one part of my notes, I put joyful praise of triumph. So in that sense, I think it's Psalms 47:1, where it says, shout to God with the voice of triumph, or shout to God with a voice of joy. And so that is one of those areas where joyful triumph is connected, where just having joy in NIV or just having triumph doesn't really pull it out as much as that joyful praise of triumph. But with these two translations, rather versions, they're not translations. This is the NIV or the King James Version. So with these versions, and one has chosen the word triumph, the other one has chosen joy, but reading both of them, you can see that it is a combination of joyful triumph. Is to praise, or in like an evaluation, so when you're getting an evaluation at work and you're hoping that evaluation is really good, and so your boss or your supervisor proclaims what great work you're doing, right? They're saying you're doing a great job with this, and this is what you're doing well, and this is what you're doing well, and you need a little work on this. But the doing well part, that's that evaluative expression of praise. And then it's definitive. So it's definite. It's not questionable. It is, this is a victory. This is a win. This is what you're doing well. This is what is praiseworthy. This is what we're going to talk about for generation to generation. It's not going to waver. It can soothe, pacify, calm, or be quiet, again, according to the context. For example, when God calms the sea. When he calms the sea. Okay, so, I didn't write the scripture down, but it is probably when he calms the sea, maybe with Jonah. when Jonah, says it's me, we got to turn the ship back, and they turn it back. That could be a space for Shabach. I'm not going to say specifically that that's what that is, but it talked about when God calms the sea, and the only two times I recall God calming the sea is then, or when Jesus calmed the seas, and that was to soothe and to pacify and to be quiet. Jesus said to be quiet. Now that's the Greek, but it may have been that word in Greek would have been, if it was written in Hebrew, would have been Shabach. So those are just some thoughts in my head, not solidified. Put my disclaimer in there. So there's that. Psalms 145 verse 4. One generation shall command the works to another and declare your mighty acts. That is a space for Shabach, talking about they commend the works. They're talking about the works of the Lord and how great they are, and they're declaring the mighty acts from one generation to another. That's like that commendation medal, that unit citation, that unit commendation. All right, so the next one is Psalm 63:3. Because of your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise, or Shabach, you. They will praise you. And praise God's work. It'll praise God's work. So what do we get from this? I talked a couple of weeks ago about that I've met God more in the quiet time than I have in the loud time. Because when you're loud, you can't hear because you're being loud. Now, after the loudness, there's this calm and be still, and you can hear from the Lord. I remember when I used to go to an Assembly of God church, and everybody would be praising God loudly. And as they're praising God loudly, there would be this hush. And then God would speak. Sometimes it would be somebody speaking in tongues and then the interpretation, or a prophetic word. Okay, so that's, I think, would be an example of that calm. There was shouting, and then there was this calm, and then you can hear what God is saying. So there's that. And then there's a time for quietness with the Lord. Absolutely. Peace, calm, quietness, being still. We'll get to that in the praise section. There is a word of praise for that. Okay. So, but for this portion, when we're talking about shouting to the Lord, with a voice of triumph or with a voice of joy, public declaration. Do not get... Shut the door. Of course she couldn't wait until I was done. So, and the noise of the barking is again stopping the brain. This seems to be the new practice for my brain now, to be able to function with noise. It hasn't quite made it there yet. So that's my squirrel moment for the moment. I guess she's shouting. Even the animals shout. um, Not to judge others when they proclaim loudly God's victory or their shout to the Lord as something undignified. You would see no problem with doing that at a sports game. How much greater are the works of God than your sports team? Right? So just to bring it down to reality, to bring it down to this space of, well, how do I accomplish this? Especially if we're not used to stepping out and doing something like that. Especially if it's, again, a time and place. You're not going to be in the middle of church service and it's nice and quiet and you're just going to start screaming out, unless the Lord moves you, and how that church can flow with that. But for the most part, church services have order. They have this space. And in that space, it's a possibility that you have that opportunity. And if you have that opportunity, feeling uncomfortable about doing something different, or being out in public and, they used to have those old soapboxes. You used to stand on the soapbox and speak out, street preachers do this. So maybe you should try your hand at maybe some street preaching. We don't have a whole lot of streets here. And the streets we have, people are going by 45 miles an hour. So it's not quite the same as in a city. But one of those things that you can do, maybe start out in your prayer room, having the host of heaven be your audience, praising God, getting used to shouting out to the Lord for the wonderful works that he has done, and letting your family and your friends see that. Those hiccups are coming up again. Those family and friends, that you can say it in a louder, little bit more than a indoor voice, even if you're indoors, because you're excited about what God has done for you. And they'll see that enthusiasm. They may think you're a little crazy, but it's okay, because we're not man pleasers. We're God pleasers. And so when we think of Shabach, what is it that you can do in this form of praise? And it can grow from there. All right, that's all I have for you today. Remember, go back and watch from the beginning of this series, the praises, the Hebrew praises for the Lord, for praise. So the Hebrew words for praise, and go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison. Different than my Facebook profile, Mona E. Harrison. Subscribe. That's where the subscribe button is on YouTube. And you can go back and you can watch videos all the way back to March. I've been doing this for over 10 years, but I just started YouTube back in March. So you can watch those, watch them on fast speed. And on Thursdays, now for Thirsty Thinking Thursday, quasi-pseudo notes, trying to read my chicken scratch and see where it goes from there. And maybe it'll improve. All right. Thank you, Jamie, for watching. And like, share, comment, get all the bells and whistles. Go over to YouTube, and I will see you tomorrow for Feisty Friday. Feisty Friday, that's some of my followers' favorite day. Depending on their personalities. Some like Thirsty Thinking Thursday. Some like this way of communication versus my impromptu. And so, yeah. Take care. See you, and Have a blessed day.